Charlie Dickens, Chapter 46, entitled Drowned. They carried on further into the woods until they came to the sounds of running water. The boys who had previously been borrowing them were crossing a fast-flowing stream, and they were laughing and joking as they stepped on the rocks which acted as nature's ladder across the river. They were not paying attention, and there was only one logical outcome. The two taller and older boys crossed with ease, and they stood on the opposite end of the river full of bravado, and they urged the younger boys to cross. Charlie and Tinker hid behind the trees as they watched in horror and amazement as one of the boys picked up a stone, and he threw it at the boy and he narrowly missed his head. The boy wobbled like he was wearing the wrong size shoes, and time seemed to stand still as he teetered on the edge like a drunken trapeze artist. And Tinker and Charlie held their breath, but not for long. They couldn't cry out as they didn't want to be discovered. Finally, the boy fell with a splash, and for some reason the boys around him seemed to find it funny, but not for long as they witnessed him flapping his arms wildly and bobbing up and down under the water. "He won't last long with all of his clothes on," said Tinker as he exchanged worried looks with Charlie. The boy's coat was filled with water and it blew up like a balloon, but it didn't make it buoyant any more. "Help!" shouted the boy in between gasps for air as he went under the cold water as if he was being pulled by an invisible hand. His face was white and a look of panic was filling his eyes like ink. His so-called friends were now looking like cowards as they tried to make a decision whether to help or not. Two of the boys ran off, but the other one grabbed a fallen branch and it dipped into the water like a straw. The drowning boy reached out to grab it, but his strength was going like sand in a bottle as he grabbed pathetically. It was obvious that the boy under the water was so weak that he couldn't grasp the oar with any real strength, and it was slipping through his fingers like he was trying to catch an eel with his bare hands. In frustration and fear, he threw the oar into the freezing water, and he ran to the woods to join the gang. Tinker and Charlie watched with growing unease. "Well, at least he's tried to help," said Tinker, as he amazed Charlie by stripping off his coat and trousers, and before Charlie could blink, he was running towards the boy with a determined look on his face. Charlie watched stunned and feeling a little guilty as he swam towards the stricken boy like Tarzan. "If only I could do that," thought Charlie, but he wasn't a good swimmer, and he hated being cold more than anything in the world. He longed to be brave like Spider-Man, but something was stopping him, and he didn't know what. Tinker cruised towards the boy like a submarine, and it was obvious that nothing was going to stop him, and Charlie could see a flicker of hope in the boy's eyes. As he clung on to Tinker's shoulders, Charlie saw him smile with relief, and he knew everything was going to be all right. Tinker kicked up a huge plume of water as he confidently sped towards the river bank. The boy stood on the bank shivering but grateful. "Thanks," he said between quivering lips. Tinker was smiling, and he seemed totally unconcerned about the cold and the water dripping off him. It was like he was melting. Tinker went over to his bag and he whipped out a towel and he threw it to the grateful boy. "Thanks," he said again, but this time he was smiling. Charlie didn't know what to do with himself, and he felt guilty. He wished that he could have dove in, but he wasn't sure if Spider-Man was a good swimmer. But he knew that he was fearless, just like he himself wished to be. As soon as the boy had dried himself, he said an awkward goodbye, and he ran back to his gang, but not without a quick, half-embarrassed thank you. "Well, that was something," said Tinker. "Yeah, I think he'll drop his gang in the future when he grows up," said Charlie somewhat naively. "If he grows up," says Tinker.